Hola, hola. All right. Here we
Technical
are.
difficulties.
Yay.
Yay, I beat the system. Hey, Danny.
Hey, Dana, how are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, just ending up a work day, ending out a work day. Still
Uh,
writing emails and stuff, but it's good to take a little break and chat with you for a little bit.
oh my God, you still have so much going on, huh?
Yeah, this is every day. I spend at least, I would say, seven hours on email, at least a day.
Wow. Wow. You know, email is one of my least favorite things to do. And so because of that, I created the doll phone.
The
You should
dog?
do that.
What is that?
My cell phone.
Is yourself?
Seriously, and it allows me to forward it when I'm not available. It allows me to take it when I am. It's perfect because email, it's the biggest issue for companies is to keep up with email. And when you're a small company, you end up doing it yourself or with a small team, and ain't nobody got time for that.
Nobody got time for that. Yeah, I have a team. I have my assistant Corinne, and then my momager. But that's it. That's us. And so we're handling all the emails coming in. But anywho, let's get to the core of what we're going to talk about today. So for those that just tuned in, I'm excited that we're having this conversation because some of you may have seen the post that I put up. What was it? A week ago? Maybe 2 weeks ago. Announcing something very special. So Dana, if you want to talk about Black Doll Affair and give the people the message.
Okay, so hey, every dolly, I'm Mama Doll. I founded a little movement that could about 15 years ago called the Black Doll Affair. Our mission is to change the way Black women and girls are perceived, and more importantly, perceive themselves. We are literally coming up on 15 years. We're literally just a movement of Black women who get together to change the world. I started it because of the doll test where Black children chose the Black doll as bad and ugly and the one they didn't want to play with. And so I thought, well, I'll just throw a one-time Christmas party and ask Black women from all over the world and all different shapes, sizes and hues to come to this Christmas party and come to life as a doll, whether you're a blue Black or they couldn't tell if you were Black, whether you're size 2 or 22, supermodel or everyday woman. Show up at this party, come to life, tell your story. Let these girls know, yeah, life as a Black doll is hard, and we get dumped on, which is what we're going to talk about tonight, like literally dumped on. But that's no reason to shine and show your magic. And then we said, when we leave, we'll leave them with a doll to remind them of their beauty. So be a doll, give it all. 15 years later, we are recognized by President Barack Obama. We have some of the biggest names in the world, like Danni Washington, to support us. Misty Copeland, Tay Diggs, and just everyday Black women who want to change the world. So people think, how do you do that? You empower. And we have empowered our women from, getting up in the morning and saying, I'm changing my life. I'm tired of being in this way, and I'm going to leave that man. Or I'm tired of just spending so much money and not being philanthropic, so I'm going to get up and feed the homeless. We do all types of things. And so every Christmas, to go back to what we've always done on the first Saturday of every December at 1:00 p.m. around this great country, Black women put on their Black doll t-shirts. Our slogan is no membership fee, just buy your Black doll tee. We put on our Black doll t-shirts, we come to life, and we give away dolls. So we are the largest consumer group of toy Black dolls because of that. And in the middle of the night, just, doing what people do when they can't sleep, I was on the internet and I came across your page and was just, oh, she's pretty. Look at her. Oh, a Mocha Mermaid. I love it. And then I realized that this pretty little face matched our slogan, which is, we have so many, but one of them is pretty philanthropic. Mm-hmm. And I realized that you weren't just being pretty, you were swimming for a cause. And the more I clicked, the more that I saw, the more that I learned. And the biggest thing that disturbed me was something I didn't know. And that is that our Black communities are the chosen dumping grounds for pollution. Yes. And then you taught me all about plastic pollution. So here we are. Every year I choose a theme for the Black dolls to get behind to do what we set out to do, and that's to change the world. So I've chosen you as an honorary doll to lift your voice and teach us how to swim through this pollution, how to make the world a better place before we go on to our next mission next year. Who knows what that will be? But I'm learning so much, and I look forward to having you teach me more. So with that, Danni, what do we need to know?
Oh, there's so much. There's so much. I mean, you know, obviously dealing with COVID and everything that we've gone through the last 12 months as a global community has shaken a lot of things up. And I think it's woken a lot of people up as well to especially environmental issues. And so when we look at our waste, the things that we're consuming on a daily basis, we're seeing that this waste is ending up not away, like we like to say, we're throwing something away. It ends up somewhere. And that somewhere usually tends to be in a landfill or in our waterways and eventually into our ocean. But a lot of these landfills are placed right on the borderline of BIPOC communities, Black, Indigenous, people of color living right next door to these places that are spewing out toxic fumes and different things that they're breathing into their lungs, contaminating water. And so as consumers, as people who are buying things like dolls, we have to think about this cradle to cradle model. Like when you buy something, what happens to it after you're done with it? And what are the materials that are a part of that product? And so when it comes to toys specifically, majority of toys made today are made from plastic. And plastic comes from crude oil in the ground that's extracted, pulled up, refined, and then turned into all these different products, whether it's gasoline that we put in our cars or plastic products that we use on a daily basis. But what we're finding now, and what scientists are finding out, is that a lot of the chemicals used to make these plastics feel different, so like the soft, squishy plastics that we see in toys, they're adding things called phthalates and other additives, plasticizers, that allow that plastic to feel the way that it does. But those specific like chemicals are causing cancer and other sicknesses within our own bodies. And so it's about, again, reframing how we buy things, thinking, what do we need? What do we eat on a daily basis? Ask yourself that question. And it's especially important when we think about what we're giving to our babies and our kids to play with.
As they play with, not only just play with, chew on.
Chew on, yes, exactly. Put in their mouths. All
ingest.
Yes. So I think a lot of people are finally waking up to that, and there are plenty of research papers out there that you can look up a lot of these details. But again, it begins with the consumer, and it begins with our choices, because these things wouldn't be made if no one was buying them, right? If we decide to buy things like toys made from recycled materials or things out of recycled paper, these are options that are a little bit more sustainable than choosing something that will literally last forever. Plastic is made to last forever. It's not made to break down. That's what makes it such a perfect material for so many things. But now we're at a juncture where we got to be like, okay, is it really worth it? Do we want to see this in our landfill? And then also realizing that BIPOC communities are disproportionately impacted negatively because of this entire process, from extracting that crude oil all the way to disposing of that plastic trash. We're seeing it around the world, impacting communities of color.
So how do we make that okay, so we hear that and we process that and we think, well, that's problematic, and we'll just throw that in with all the other problems in the world. But what does that have to do with me? Because most people, and if you'll talk on this, most people think, well, I'll just recycle. So I'll just keep using my plastic and keep getting plastic, and then I'll just, recycle. Can you tell people, educate us about what happens in the recycling process and what has to be there in order, and then what happens to the bywaste?
Well, unfortunately, the recycling system specifically here in America is quite broken. There are lots of, different municipalities that are doing their absolute best to handle the amount of waste coming their way, but it is just a huge challenge to figure out how to move that plastic waste. Where does it go? Plus, on top of that, we've got so many different kinds of plastic. If you look at the bottom of a bottle, you'll see there's a little number sign. And what you'll find as you look at products around your house, you'll see that different plastic products have different numbers. And so these different numbers are recycled in different ways, and not every city or county has the ability or the resources to have the machines that can recycle that type of plastic. So we're seeing massive issues with trying to deal with the amount that's coming in, because each of us, if you just assess what you do on a daily basis in your own individual life, look at how much plastic you're interacting with every single day, and times that by 1 billion. Actually times it by 8 billion people almost. It's intense. So what can we do? It's about kind of stopping it at the source, closing that tap. And the way that you can close it as an individual is to start refusing to buy some of those products, like pulling them out of your lifestyle, choosing something different. And thankfully, we're living in a time where there are so many entrepreneurs out there that are looking into alternatives and figuring out other ways of doing certain things and making products that are beneficial, if you know, and not harmful to the consumer and to other people and the planet. So it's about doing homework and figuring out, okay, I'm using this thing, is there an alternative? It may take a little more time, might take a little more money, but if you're able and financially, you know, able to buy that thing that could be a better alternative, then do it.
So when you, I love that, but we're just one individual or two individuals in a sea of plastic. What can we do in our neighborhoods? What can we do? You know, I so love the fact when I think about Meghan Markle and the letter that she wrote to change the world. What can we do as young girls and women to get off of this live and say, I'm going to make step one? Do we need to call, you know, our state capitol? Do we need to call our local representatives? Do we go to, I'm in the state of Washington, so it is so, it's such a great place if you're, you know, want to get involved in the environment. You know, it's an evergreen state. So there's so many campaigns. It's literally like just pick up the phone and find out what to do. But what can we do? Like, what's an actionable step that we can take tomorrow for one individual listening to us tonight?
One individual step. I think the first step is to pick what you're passionate about. Because as you said before, we've got so many different issues out in the world right now that we're dealing with and trying to handle, and our own individual challenges. I think it's about deciding that you see something that's not working in the world and not working for the people around you, for yourself, the people that you love. Pick that one thing and go all the way in with it. Like, like you said, call your legislators about that issue. Look locally. I mean, you have to start local. You have to start within the first square mile of where you live. What are the issues facing that particular area? Because that's the closest proximity to you. And so if we act locally and we think globally, that's when we'll see exponential change. And it's hard to just say one thing, to be quite honest. I mean, there are a lot of solutions out there, but what gives me the most hope is this idea that our internal ethos, like our consciousness as individuals, I believe is shifting in a direction where we're now seeing the value, obviously, of nature and the support system that we have on this planet, and recognizing that humans are a part of that system. We're not separate, we're not above it, we're not outside of it, we are a part of this system. Yeah. And the more that we recognize that as individuals starting off, the more that you'll be awakened to like other ideas that you can apply in your own life. And then as we continue to work together in collaboration, whether it's with a local organization that you know of that's doing some work, you know, addressing pollution, but also addressing hunger. This is also a big issue in our communities, where we're seeing this connection between people who are dealing with hunger insecurity or food insecurity because they live in food deserts. Why do they live in food deserts? Well, there's these areas that have been redlined off that are usually these same areas of the places where you're seeing the environmental injustices happening, where there's contaminated water or there's contaminated air. And all these things are intersecting in a way that you can't look the other direction. You have to look at it for what it is, and how do we make sure that we pour more resources into the communities that need it the most, and make sure that the leaders who are part of that community are uplifted in a way that they can, you know, point us in the right direction on how to do the work that's needed. Because it's so nuanced. Every community is different. But I say, you know, it's about uplifting specifically BIPOC leaders and making sure that the women of those communities are also the ones who we are, you know, pouring the most resources into.
Every day I try to ask myself, you know, just to stay woke. Is the Black Doll Affair still what you want to keep doing? Are you still making a difference? What are people saying? Are you empowering? And so if someone asks me, and many have, why are we doing this? This is my way of changing the world for Black girls. I realized that once I saw you on the internet, oh, there's a BIPOC problem. how dare they dump on us? Like, God, we just get dumped in every way, right? So when I learned that, it really just, it pissed me off, to put it very frankly. I remember growing up in Oklahoma City, and there was a ditch across the street from my grandparents' home. And I just thought that was normal. But when I think back and I think about the city trucks, not just the locals, who grew up, that's like, oh, go dump it in the ditch. But you think about the city trucks that would go and dump in this ditch. And I just came full circle, and I thought, well, I'm going to change. I'm going to be a little bit more woke about the plastic problem, the pollution problem. And I started in my building. What's our recycling program? And I learned that they will take the boxes and they'll take the wine bottles, but they won't take plastic anymore because they can't keep up with it. So we have to go to our city facility. But then one day I'm driving back feeling so proud of myself because look at you, Mama Doll, changing the world. But I thought, yeah, but what are you doing around the world? What you have considered your carbon footprint. But what about the Black dolls who are following your lead?
Right.
And so that's literally how I came up with this, where I thought, I don't know, just the way I didn't know last year when I walked into a Christmas party and we had, or one year we had Black Girl Magic, and the whole thing was to remind a little girl of her magic. And then another year we had Dolls in the Hood, and it was, let's go back to those neighborhoods that was there for us before anybody knew who we were, and let's lift them up. And so I walked away from those parties thinking, I don't know if I reached anybody. I hope I did. And so it's the same thing here. If I look at it big picture, it's going to be too big, right?
Yeah.
But if you start in your boots, right where you are, then there's a lot you can do, but you do have to make a plan. And once I sat down, I was like, well, that's our theme this year. And then look how what you are doing resonates around the world. So one small step for Mama Doll, one giant step for Doll Kind.
I love how you infuse these doll idioms, the little, what's the word for that? I guess
Doll talk.
Doll talk. There we go. Love it.
Every doll. You mentioned intersections. Can you tell us, because I learned this recently, but I'm sure you can explain it better than I. Can you tell us about intersectionality and where it started and where it is now?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's definitely a buzzword that's been tossed around back since like 2017 when we had that first massive women's march. But the word was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw, who was a Black law professor at Columbia. And she coined the term back in like 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And, oh, no, more than 30 years ago. And she...
Civil rights movement, right?
What's that?
Wasn't it during the civil rights movement when she was... Go ahead.
No, it was actually, I think it was 37 years ago, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And yeah, and she got a lot of pushback for putting out this word that just showed this place where different factors, different identities that we hold as individuals, specifically Black women, in the justice setting, inform a lot of the choices that we make, who we are, and how we're treated by the outside world. And I think it's such a brilliant way to bring everything home. And now we're seeing groups like intersectional environmentalists, which I'm a huge fan of, because they're informing the world about this idea of intersectionality and continuing that legacy. And so it's really important that we consider that, because we all within ourselves hold different identities that impact our choices and the way that we're treated. And I think it's all about acknowledging those intersections, because we're multidimensional beings. We're not just some type of, label that somebody wants to give us.
Yep.
And by acknowledging that, that's the first step in the right direction toward equality and equity. But we still have such a long way to go, because we're seeing, multitudes of marginalized groups, whether it's the LGBTQA+ community, the Black community, the Indigenous community, Latinx community. We've all got these different identities that we hold, and it's important that we uplift them and we make sure that the world knows that this is what's informing my choice and how I live my life, and it needs to be respected.
The other thing I recently learned, Danny, was this is a pretty young movement in terms of environmentalism and aligning with racism. It wasn't until 1980 that a husband and wife team, I think it's Bean versus Southwestern Waste, where, I'm sorry?
I don't know about this case. Tell me more.
So it's the first case in the United States that was aligned with the environment and discrimination. And up until through the 1920s through 1979 in Houston, the city was dumping all of the waste, all of the infernos, all of the landfills were going into Black communities. And I do not know the lady's name. I just learned this today because I'm taking a course. If I'm gonna lead, I'm gonna be educated.
There you go.
But my phone was ringing and I'm doing all of, but this stood out. So I don't have the names. Like I could tell you that Kenneth and Mamie Clark did the doll test, husband and wife team. So I thought it was also interesting that Black husband and wife teams are known for this test, Bean versus Southwestern Management. But anyway, she was working for the city and decided that she was going to sue them for what she saw. And she came home and told her husband that she was basically suing the company that he worked for and said, you know, I need a socialist, someone who can put together charts around Houston to show where these landmines are, where these landfills are versus where they're not. And so they ended up suing. And for the first time with Al Gore, Bill Clinton, you know, that whole president's, what was that? Administration, thank you. They all got together and signed the Civil Rights Bill that aligns the environmentalist justice with discrimination. And so what I think is great about, particularly me, because everybody knows me, I can get up and talk about the Black Doll Affair and you cannot trip me up. But what I love about this, particularly just turning 50 years old, is that I get to learn something new. And I want to go in front of my dolls tonight and show them. I don't know everything. I am swimming with a dolphin who knows a lot more than I do. But if we are going to change the world, if you really put on this t-shirt, not just to look cute, but to get behind our community and make sure we're not dumped on, don't ask me the question, why paper dolls this year? And so that's why we want to give Mother Nature a break. And you have a company that you work with that you were telling us about, which you can give a shout out if you want to, that does the recyclable paper.
Well, yeah. So first of all, happy birthday again. I know I wrote on your page, but happy birthday.
Thank you.
It's a beautiful thing. Blessings.
Thanks, doll.
Yeah, I think so. My company is Big Blue and You. It's a nonprofit organization, and we focus on educating and engaging with young people who are concerned about the ocean, but predominantly focusing on BIPOC communities. So we want to see more young people of color involved in ocean conservation because the ocean impacts all of us, and that's truly my passion. And you know, growing up as a little girl in Miami, I thoroughly enjoyed the beach and going to the ocean with my family, but I recognized as I got older that this wasn't the case for a lot of my friends, like people from my neighborhood, because I didn't live on the beach. I lived, you know, quite a ways away. And so it was a big trip, but like my friends and my schoolmates and everything, some of them had never even been to the beach before. Wow. And they lived in Florida. And it was because of various reasons, whether it was they couldn't get transportation to get over there, they didn't feel like they belonged at the beach or in the ocean, or they couldn't swim. These were all factors that played into this kind of barrier to entry, into exploring.
No pun intended. Barrier.
No, it was they're literal barriers. So that's where Big Blue and You came from. I started at 21 with my mom, and we were focused on how do we break down those barriers and also open up opportunities for young people that we knew in our community that should and would love to connect with the ocean, but just didn't have the opportunity to do so.
How can we help you?
Well, of course, you can follow us online. We're just at Big Blue and You on all socials, and bigblueandyou.org is our website. And so we're always welcoming support, whether it's shout outs, donations. We'll take anything and every support that you can offer. But we're currently developing a lot of new virtual curriculum that we're going to be sharing with some of our young followers. And then also a bunch of volunteer programs are also starting this summer that we'll be doing in South Florida. So we'll continue to post about what's next, but we've done a complete pivot through 2020 and kind of shifting our strategy. But can't wait till we can start getting back out in the water and connecting with kids and bringing them to the beach. I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
I think we should organize a green, because Danny, thank you for doing what you do. The other thing that I learned today in my course was that there's not enough Black seats. No, there's seats at the table. There's not enough black butts at the table. And so, you know, it's just kind of like, oh, I live in Florida and I've never been to the ocean. You know, what you're doing is exactly what you set out to do, is to broaden the horizon. I'd love to see which we will definitely do at Christmas, but maybe before then, I'd love to see a Green for Blue where we donate money to you. I'd love to see, if we ever get out of the house, you know, the dolls, we definitely should go someplace exotic, you know, and change the world. You know, we want to go play. I've seen your timeline. Lauren, my assistant, and I should say thank you to Lauren, my friend and my backbone of the Black Doll Affair, and my sister Felicia. They helped me get this whole thing set up because the whole ordeal. But she was the one when I said, yeah, we're partnering with a mermaid, and she was like, oh, she lives. I mean, like lives.
I try to take, you know, it's all about exploring this beautiful world that we have around us, you know, and that sense of adventure has been instilled in me since I was really little, thanks to my mom, who's an adventurer herself. But I try to, like, you know, I'm a scuba diver. I love paddleboarding. I love hiking and just being outside. And I was so excited last year when we had this massive wave of awareness showcasing Black people outside doing things that others assume that we don't do. And I'm really just grateful to be a part of that tribe of folks who are trying to open up new horizons, like you said, for all of us, because we deserve it, and we should have access to everything just like everyone else. But you know, within this country, we've seen these, again, more historical barriers when it comes to swimming, where, you know, because of Jim Crow, we weren't allowed, our grandparents and other, you know, family members weren't allowed to learn how to swim at the local pool because Black people,
because we couldn't drink out of the local fountain.
Couldn't drink out of the fountain. All of these barriers, couldn't go to national parks. Like, there was so many barriers there, but now we're seeing the way that this next generation is just trying to showcase the fact that that's not the state of affairs anymore. We stand on the shoulders of giants, and our predecessors worked hard so that we could have access today, and there's no reason why we're not taking advantage of it. So we have to be out. We have to get out there. We have to get outside and reconnect with nature.
Oh, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. If it's nothing more than a beach party in Miami, we are going to do that. The one thing I do want to leave people with is, Danni and I, obviously Danni's whole career is devoted to it. Oh, you know what else, Danni? Before I digress, y'all remember what I was going to say. I was on Misty Copeland, Honorary Black Doll. I was on her page the other day, and I saved a video, and I could have sworn that was your voiceover. No?
Oh, did she post it? Was it the Disney Channel thing?
Yeah.
That was my voice.
Like, okay, wait, I know that voice. Was that you?
I didn't know she posted it. Yes, that was me.
So I turned 50, so I saved it somewhere. I just can't find it. But she hasn't posted. I will ask her to send it to me. But I came across it the other day because I was telling your momager, I was like, oh, Michelle, that voice, that is the new James Earl Jones. And then literally she sent me the Martin Luther King thing, I think, that you did for Disney, right?
Yeah, I did three. I did one for Vice President Kamala Harris as well, and it was really cool. You know, that's so terrible. I have not posted that stuff, and that happened. Yeah, this is. Well,
that's why it was like. That's why I was like, okay, maybe it's not Danni, and I kept listening. I was like, it's Danni. Now, why Danni hasn't posted or no one told me that, I don't know. Beautiful voice, Danni. You're so talented.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really enjoy it. I love any type of storytelling, whether it's just like voiceovers or visual, you know, being in front of the camera. I really enjoy that. And that's truly like my bread and butter as my career, because I believe in representation. And it's not just about me being in front of a camera on a television show. It's like, I want to make sure that the little girls and little boys who are watching that show know that this is a space for them as well. And the more that we do that, the more that we make ourselves visible, the more possibilities we open up for them.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it. We're doing it. Everybody listening, we're doing it. The companies that support us, including the companies that support the Black Doll Affair, they all have sustainability programs. The companies that you support, they all have sustainability programs. What we all have to do as a nation is to commit to our sustainability programs, and what we have to do as individuals is put a sustainability program in our dollhouses. We have to do it. And then when we get back to our regularly scheduled programming, we have made the world a better place. And that's what it's all about. So, any wrap-up words? Any wrap-up words you want to share?
I would just say take heart and know, even though like the things that we talked about are pretty big, large scale, global issues, it all begins with us as individuals, and then working with the people that we love, working with our community, and taking those steps, like you said, to just push the needle and change the way that we're living life and rethink the way that we're consuming and extracting and taking from the earth. We have to rethink that. We have to live, how are we living in more harmony with our planet? How can we make better choices every day? And it all starts with, it just starts right here. And anything's possible.
It's all possible. Are we recording this?
Yeah, I record. I'll have it as an IGTV, so I'll send it to you.
Cool. Perfect. Well, you use the buzzword love. It's all heart. There's a reason why I chose the black heart in the logo. It's love. I love you. I appreciate you doing this. I love your work. I love the fact that we've got black, white, and brown on this feed, because it's going to take a village in order for us to save our village. It's the only dollhouse we have, planet Earth. Let's love her.
Love you too. Thank you so much, Mama Doll.
You're welcome, Danni Doll. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye.
All right, take care. Thanks for having me.
Of course.